welcome back to the channel. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and today we're going to be doing a coffee chat Q&A. But what's a coffee chat Q&A without coffee? So let's go make that, and then I'm going to get to answering all of your questions. Okay guys, welcome back. Long time no see, am I right? Anyway, I made a caramel iced coffee using the Bianco Forte pod. I know there's a little bit of tension around this pod in some of the coffee contenter worlds here. Me personally, I mean, I don't think I've reviewed it on this channel yet or even on my TikTok because I only got it like a couple weeks ago or a few weeks ago. And I like it so far. I've been trying it with the caramel recipe that I have, and I really, really like it. I haven't had a caramel iced coffee or a plain iced coffee in a while, and I was really craving that. So that's what I made, as you guys could probably tell, with my caramel syrup and my creamer. I'll put that recipe down below. But yeah, let's get into our little coffee chat, our very first coffee chat. First of all, I want to thank you guys so much for sending in questions. You guys are so sweet. All the feedback I've gotten in the comments, you guys are just amazing. I really couldn't ask for better people watching my videos. Honestly, you guys are awesome. So I'm really excited to get to some of the questions that you guys asked me. One person asked what my top 5 Virtuo pods were and my top 5 original line pods were. And I'm gonna be honest with you, that was so hard because I'm just now getting around to tasting. I think I've officially tasted almost all the pods in both lines at this point, which is why I've been trying to buy so many pods, because I just feel like, you know, if I'm going to do coffee content, I want to be able to recommend the ones that I really enjoy to you guys. And if I don't know what I enjoy, how am I supposed to recommend recipes and stuff? So I've been really trying, as you guys can see with my big coffee stash, to get as many pods as possible, and however much can fit into those containers. So my favorite pods would have to be, let's start with the Virtuo line. My favorite pods in the Virtuo line would probably have to be Bianco Piccolo, because it's so creamy, it's so nutty. I've loved it ever since I tried it in the Christmas or the holiday advent calendar that went around for Nespresso a few months back. You guys know I was obsessed with it when I first tried it, and I've bought a sleeve since, and I've gotten some free samples of it when I go and buy different pods from the Nespresso store, and I really enjoy it. Recipes that come to mind off the bat, I really like hazelnut with it. I like the chocolate macadamia nut syrup with it. It's a very nutty, creamy pod, so I think any sort of nut or chocolate-based recipe would be absolutely amazing with it. I don't think you can go wrong with it, even if you choose to just do caramel or anything like that. It's very versatile. I just like its nuttiness as well, so that's why I like it. I also reviewed this pod before in a previous video, but Starbucks Reserve, really like that one too. I think it's definitely different than the Bianco Piccolo for sure. One is that it's a double espresso versus a single shot, but two, just their profiles, like one's very fruity, pungent. The other one is just very, you know, nutty, creamy, more appropriate for like, I think people that are just now getting into coffee and don't want something too strong. I would go for maybe the Bianco Piccolo pod versus the Starbucks Reserve. I think the Starbucks Reserve is just a little bit too fruity, acidic, complex. So with that, I've really been liking maple brown sugar with it, maple cardamom lattes with it. Really been liking that pod with those type of recipes. Something floral, something fruity, but also kind of something sweet too. So that's how I've been liking it. Everybody has their preferences. I think you can honestly just have the Starbucks Reserve pod as a vanilla latte and be just fine too. The other pod that I've been liking, and you guys know I don't really like 8-ounce pods, so this is a big feat for me. I really have been liking the roasted hazelnut pod in the Virtuo line. I said it in my last, or I think my last couple videos or whatever. I really just like it. I'm a hazelnut gal. I will continue buying that pod. I do really like it, which is just very surprising for me because, again, I'm a latte gal to the T. But that roasted hazelnut, it has me in their chokehold. I'll say it once and I'll probably say it in a million of my other future videos. It's a really good pod. So highly recommend it. That's just me. Until I find another coffee flavor that I really like with that hazelnutty flavor, catch me having that pod until they revamp it or try something else. But I just really like it. I also really like Double Espresso Dolce for the same reason I like Bianco Doppio. I think they're both really creamy. I think they're both very caramelly. I think I kind of like Bianco Doppio just a smidge less than the Double Espresso Dolce. And I don't really know why. I think the Double Espresso Dolce is just a little bit like stronger tasting than the Bianco Doppio, but I don't think you can go wrong with either, to be honest. But Double Espresso Dolce is just my personal preference for that Double Espresso arena. The last one in the Virtuo line that I really have been liking, which is kind of surprising to me because I don't usually prefer pods that are like one flavor note type of thing. I like to mix and match different syrups with my pods. So I'm always a little bit afraid to commit to one type of flavor, kind of like the juicy watermelon pod or even the roasted hazelnut pod. I'm just too worried that it's going to be too strong in that flavor that I can't really enjoy it and mix it any other way. However, this pod, the tropical coconut flavor over ice, still, like the roasted hazelnut pod, has me in a chokehold. I love it so much. It's a great summer flavor. Maybe I'll do a video on just the top 5 summer flavors I've been loving in both lines later on down the road, but I love it. It's so good. I've been trying it with, of course, coconut syrup because I feel like that's really the only way I can have it, but I usually mix that coconut syrup sometimes with other syrups like vanilla, like white chocolate or chocolate. Absolutely amazing, so yummy. I also try it with the toasted black sesame syrup from Torani. Honestly, so yummy. Coconut and toasted black sesame, I didn't think it would work, but it does. Just listen to me. Just try it, okay? You won't regret it, I promise. Okay. So the original line for me is a little bit harder, surprisingly, because I really don't have that many complaints with the original line. I really do like a lot of their espresso pods, and I feel like with the Virtuo pods, like I was thinking about my favorites, and I'm like, well, I don't want to be one-sided. Like I don't only want to do double espresso pods. I don't only want to do big 8-ounce pods when I'm talking about my favorites. I kind of want to spread it out, which is kind of why I chose the ones that I did for the top 5. In terms of the original line, you really don't have a lot of size variation, so it really just comes down to personal preferences for me. I'm going to put at least one lungo on the list, and that's going to be the Nocciola pod. Again, same reason I really like the roasted hazelnut pod. I really like hazelnut.
Really?
So that is the reason I picked that one. I don't know if I would really go for a lot of other lungos. Lungos are not my cup of tea. I think the only other lungo that I've really enjoyed is the Tokyo lungo out of all the other ones. So take that with a grain of salt because that's just my personal preference, like I said. But that's the only lungo that's going to be on this list, to be quite frank, is the Nocciola pod. The other ones are going to be Nicaragua, which similar to like the creaminess and the honey likeness of the Bianco Doppio pod, I just really like a creamy, yummy, honey-like Nespresso pod, and Nicaragua has all of that. You can have it so many different ways. I don't think you're tied down to a specific way of having it. It's really good. I also really like the Miami pod for its intensity. I think it's really good. I don't think it's super complex, but I think it really holds its weight when you're doing an iced latte. So highly recommend the Miami pod. Same thing with the Honduras pod. I really like that one. I love it in my chocolate-based iced lattes like cookies and cream, iced mochas, iced white mochas. Just great pod for that. Anytime I want to have one of those or TJ wants one of those, I always pick Honduras just because I think it just goes the best. The chocolatey bitter notes of that just really complement that flavor profile with the iced white mocha and the iced mocha. I feel the same way about Il Cafe. Like if I have to go for an iced white mocha or something, I'm picking Il Cafe. Same thing with like the ristretto shot in the original line as well. I think it's in the Italiano line. That's a great way to have your iced white mochas and stuff too. But for all intents and purposes, my favorite out of that intense flavor would have to be Honduras and Miami. Those are my favorite intense, I guess, pods. They're really not even that intense. I think they're like 8 or 9 versus like Napoli or something like that. But the last one I think is going to have to be Paris. I really like the citrusy acidity of Paris, and it's still super, super light. I don't think I've reviewed a lot of these pods on my channel yet, but I have tried them and I do really, really enjoy them. If you guys do want me to eventually give a taste test to them and give full flavor profiles or whatever like that, feel free to comment down below that you do want a full in-depth video. But for all intents and purposes, I'll skim over that part and just say that I really do like them. And I think all of these pods, except for maybe the Nociola pod, you can pair them so many different ways. I don't think you need to stay a certain way. But with all that said, I would love to know what your guys' top 5 favorite pods are in each line. And in general, I'm genuinely curious. Please comment down below what line you guys have been using or what machine, line you guys enjoy. As you guys know, I have both, and so I don't want my channel to be geared towards one line versus the other, and I really want to like cater it to your guys' wants and needs as well. And I say that genuinely because I don't prefer either line. I know that some contenters out there really do enjoy like maybe the original line or Virtuo line more, or they just really like manual espresso making. Right now, I think that both machines cater to all of my needs throughout the week because they constantly are changing. Like today, I was really craving an iced coffee, and I really can't get that like that in the original line unless I brew 2 longos. And sometimes it's not hitting just right. Like the iced coffee in the Virtuo line hits me just right, whereas I have to be in a specific mood to have 2 iced longos pods type of thing. And TJ feels the same way. Sometimes he switches it up. Sometimes he has a latte. Sometimes he has a big iced coffee. So we're both very variable on the day. So please let me know. I'm genuinely curious what machines most of the people watching my videos have. So yeah, or if you're thinking about getting a Nespresso machine, which I think you should, especially if you're just starting out, let me know what questions you have about it. Maybe I'll do a video about reviewing my machines later. But I'll move on to the next question. So another question that I got a couple of times in the comments was how I got so interested in coffee tasting and or coffee making. And I'll try to shorten the story as much as possible. But overall, I mean, I've been drinking coffee since I was like, 8? Like, I've been drinking coffee for a very, very long time, much like many other kids, I guess, do nowadays, where they go to Starbucks, their parents get them a Frappuccino or whatever like that. But I've been drinking coffee for a very long time. And in that time, I love coffee. I have one at least every day, recently multiple ones a day. And eventually I decided to get a job at Starbucks in college. And I really found a passion or a love for coffee tasting while I was at that job because they did encourage the baristas there to taste the coffee. And so, they would do like little flights of coffee where I was, and especially at the beginning when I first started the job, they gave you a little book and they encouraged you to do coffee tasting and writing down the profiles of each coffee type that they sold, especially because, when you're selling the coffee to your customers and they do ask for recommendations, a lot of the Starbucks customers I had asked me what coffees I like, especially if they were just getting plain coffee, or what beans they should buy. And so it is beneficial in that position to be a little bit more well-versed in coffee bean tasting than in other jobs on the daily. So I think that's really the only reason that I've developed more of like a palate for coffee tasting. Other than my job at Starbucks, I think that overall what really took me over the bridge to actually coffee tasting on the daily was buying the machines I have right now. And I feel like when you have Keurigs, when you have Nespressos, when you have these like single serve coffee machines, or even like a manual espresso machine, you're in the perfect place to go and like buy a bag of beans from a coffee shop, talk to the barista there and ask them what they recommend, or they might ask you what type of flavor profiles you like. And so you can get a bunch of single pods from Nespresso, try out some of the ones, and then you realize like Nespresso says that this is very citrusy, this is very chocolatey. And so automatically, like once you're tasting them, even if you can't taste the citrus or the chocolate at first, generally that you really like that type of coffee because, Nespresso says it's this flavor profile. So I kind of like this type of coffee. Like I know I'm very medium roasted coffee. I enjoy fruity pods, but I'm generally more of like a creamy, malty espresso type of gal. So I know if Nespresso says that this is the flavor profile behind it, I'll probably really like it. And so if a barista, when I'm going to a coffee shop to try beans, you know, I'll say, hey, I really like these type of flavor profiles. I like it this type of roasted, either light, medium, or dark. What do you recommend? And maybe I like this origin because I've tried beans from this area and I seem to really like it. And they'll give you a bunch of different recommendations. That's part of their job. They do enjoy it. At least I did. And you know, it'll take some time. I mean, I've done it for a few years now, but I'm definitely not a coffee connoisseur by any way, shape, or form. I simply just love food. I love coffee. I love to taste things. I love to eat. So I think, you know, exposing yourself to different flavor profiles, if you love food and you love coffee and you love beverages, automatically expands your palate and makes you notice certain subtleties that wouldn't otherwise be there. If you haven't tasted this before. And again, just trying things without creamer or syrup. I'm not saying you have to like it that way, but if you do think you do want to get more into coffee tasting, I always, whenever I try a new pod, I always try it just generally without any coffee syrup or sugar or anything like that at first, just to see what I pick up, and then I'll pair it with the syrup and something like that later on. And you guys have seen how I do that in the videos. And again, no science to it in my opinion. And I'll put some resources down below because there have been some books. There's a book that I really like. In fact, let me go see if I can get it. So this is a great little wheel here showing you the different types of coffee flavor appreciations and profiles that you can look at. And it kind of gives you like some inspiration for what type of notes you could be picking up when you're tasting coffee. Now, I really do think there is some subjectivity to all of this. Like, I don't think you have to be correct when you're doing this. Like, obviously, when I was doing my taste test, like way earlier on and when I started my channel, blind taste test, I was not spot on with any of the pods that I got. Whether it be because the bean really, I don't think tasted like that, or whether it because I just tasted it wrong. I think it's really up to you. How you find the coffee is subjective to you. I don't think that there has, like, if you don't pick up a note that Nespresso says there is, I don't think that that means you're a bad coffee taster. I just think that it means your taste buds are different and you picked up something different. So again, diversity in thought and taste, always appreciated in the coffee world. So don't be afraid about getting it wrong. I think it's really just going out, trying it, enjoying the coffee tasting process. And I think when you do that, you also really show appreciation for all the people that went through the process of growing the coffee, roasting the coffee, processing the coffee, and grinding it up for you in your daily latte or daily Nespresso pod that you have. So I'm all for it. I don't think, again, right or wrong way. It's just another way to appreciate coffee. So hope that gives you some sort of starting guide there. And I'll link this book down below in the description. I think it might even be on my Amazon storefront if you are interested in learning more about the processing behind coffee, a little bit more about how where it's grown impacts the way it tastes, the different washing, processing, growing techniques all around the world. I think it's a very interesting and very introduction book to all things coffee. So yeah. One person did ask other ways I've been liking to pair the El Salvador pod. And I'm going to be honest, I'm a pretty plain Jane when it comes to that pod, other than the PB&J recipe that I tried on the video of taste testing it a few weeks back. I've been really liking it with the vanilla salt syrup and vanilla creamer. Great way to have that pod. I've been also enjoying it with the Belgian cookie syrup from Torani. That's sugar-free. I'll also link all these down below. But I usually have that with caramel coffee creamer and the Belgian cookie syrup, and I'll even do with like maple brown sugar syrup and vanilla creamer, or sometimes I just have it with like a half and half and it tastes really good. But the maple and brown sugar combo is so good, and again, link it all in my description and or Amazon store, so just let me know if you can't find it. So this one's a little bit more med school oriented. This is another question that I got from my TikTok, and I do post some like pre-med videos on my TikTok as well as coffee recipe videos, so I do have a mix of both. One person did want to figure out how I made my med school list, and I did make a video or TikTok video about that, but in case there are any pre-med people watching my videos, because I have posted videos on this before, I did want to give a little bit of a rundown on that. So as some of you might know, I just submitted my primary medical school application last month, and it has been a whirlwind journey in terms of trying to submit medical school applications, take the MCAT, write up all the necessary things to submit that application. And then, of course, you have to take a couple other exams aside from the MCAT to make sure you're actually an emotionally intelligent human being, which is just absolutely insane, and that some people have to pay money for. And then you have to do so much more writing and then many interviews down the line. So this whole thing is a year-long process. I will be going through it for the next year, just so you guys know. But I am here for the struggle, and I am here to mentor other people that will be going through the process soon or are currently going through the process. Again, I don't know how much help I will be by saying this because, again, my 2 cents is very similar to yours. Like, I am going through this process with you, so it could end up being the blind leading the blind here. But if you did want my opinion, the way I went about it is that after I took my MCAT again and got the score that I wanted, I did look at the MSAR, the medical school record, something like that. I'll link it down below. All I know is that it's abbreviated MSAR. And if you get the fee assistance program, which I was fortunate enough to, they look at, you apply for it, they look at your income and determine that you physically are poverty and you can't pay for this.
Money, please.
So they did give me the subscription for free. However, I think it is $36 for 2 years to get that record book of all the stats from the profiles of these medical schools. So I would highly recommend you get that because I think that this would be a great tool to use when making your medical school list. Not only because you can see the median MCAT scores and GPAs for all of these medical schools, but you can also see what their values and mission statements are for these medical schools, which is really big. And the reason I say that is because scores and GPA and all these other stats are really, I mean, they only take you so far, right? And the 2 biggest barriers to any medical school application process is time and money. Most importantly, money, right? So if you are struggling to find the funds for all these medical school applications that you're submitting, you do get 20 free medical schools through the fee assistance program, which is very beneficial. But if you happen to be somebody that's applying to more and you just want to be able to really target what schools you think are appropriate for you, I would go about it as looking at each of these medical schools' missions. So, for example, everybody has a different way or reason for attending a particular medical school. Some people really value diversity in their medical school class. Some people really value financial aid packages. Some people really value a school that has very high residency match rates to a specific specialty that they want to go into. And some people really just want to be close to family and home, and that is completely respectable as well. So while going through your MSAR, I would look at all the schools that really match with your mission. So let's say you want to stay close to home, I would look at first at all the medical schools near you. If you really want to work with underserved populations, I would look at all the schools, and you can find these lists on Reddit as well, all the schools that really value serving underserved communities in the area. And these are going to be very urban schools, right? So after you look at all those schools, I would then take your MCAT score and your GPA or your stats or whatever it may be and compare it to the medical schools that you just looked at that have a mission that you identify with. So for example, I got a 515 on my MCAT. If I thought that a school's medium MCAT that I was interested in had above a 518 for their medium, then that would be deemed as a very reach school for me, which meant that they definitely could accept me, but it might be a little bit harder for me to get in given this MCAT score. If they were between a 515 and a 518, then they would be like a high target for me. And if they were between a 512 and a 515, then it would be more of a target school for me, a lower target. And then if they were anywhere below a 512, then it would be considered more of a safety school for me. Not that I think that any medical schools are considered safety, because you really just never know, given the numbers and the randomness of the medical school application process sometimes. So these are just the words that I'm pairing with it. Take that with a grain of salt. I really do think that if you base your medical school list based off the values and experiences that you've had and that you can show in your medical school application, that a lot of these numbers don't really count. I've seen people that get in with MCAT scores and GPAs well below the median of these schools, just because they have very enriched and great experiences that very well match the mission statement of the school, which is extremely important. For example, if you don't have a lot of research background on your application, but you're applying to a very research heavy school, which they say in their mission statement and you can see in their curriculum, then I would rank that lower on your list of what you think you might get into, even if your stats match it, just because they do want to see that you've done a lot of research in your time in undergrad, in your post-bac, in your gap year, whatever it may be. So just keep that in mind. Same thing with volunteer experiences. If you have very little experience serving the underserved or serving in rural health, or don't have a state residency or an affiliation with that state, I wouldn't really apply to that school, especially if it's a public school. So definitely look at your state schools, because a lot of them have very in-state biases and they want you to go there and serve the community, which is very rightful. So for example, I'm originally from Florida. That is where my state residency is. So I'm applying to the public schools there because I do want to serve that community as well. So take that with a grain of salt. Okay. Another question that I got was, are you thinking of buying any more syrups? And I have a few on my list, okay? I have a few on my list. One is the tiramisu syrup. I don't know if I'm going to get it from Monin or from Torani. I think Monin does have a tiramisu syrup. But I did see that Torani has a tiramisu syrup, so I am thinking about doing that. I do also want to get the cotton candy syrup from Jordan's Skinny Syrups, because I think that'd be a fun flavor. I also heard about the new kettle corn syrup from Torani. Kind of want to try that. I'm thinking of doing something weird and new. I know that it might be hard to pair these syrups with a lot of things, but I think it's worth trying to get so I can tinker around with it. Same thing with the brownie syrup. I've been seeing this brownie 1883 syrup all over TikTok and YouTube, and I really want to buy it. However, every time I go to buy it, it's been sold out on Amazon. So we will see. We'll see what we can do. But I did get the blueberry muffin syrup from 1883, and I really like it. But the thing is, it is tartar than I thought it would be, more tart than I thought it would be. So just keep that in mind. Maybe I wanted to try the dulce de leche syrup from 1883 as well, and maybe some of the other ones. So we'll see. But definitely the brownie syrup I want to give a try. And the last question I got was, what are some third-party pods that you like? And that's going to depend on what machine you have, okay? So for my Virtuo lovers, my Virtuo havers that happen to watch my videos, you guys know that you guys don't really have a lot of third-party pods to choose from. It's really just the Starbucks line that you buy in the grocery store, unfortunately. So doesn't give a lot of room for creativity or freedom there. But I do think, I do really like the blonde roast single shots that they have, and the regular espresso roast single shots that you can buy in the grocery store. I've yet to try any of the 8-ounce pods because I am afraid that I'm not going to like them. Please let me know if you happen to like any of the 8-ounce pods and what you would recommend I get. I really like light and medium roasted pods, so if you know of any ones that you really like as well and you like those flavor profiles, just let me know. As for the original line, there is a lot more third parties to choose from just because they've been around. The original line has been around a lot longer for Nespresso. So for that third party, I think I really like the Bespresso pods. I know they're really affordable. I said that in my last video a few weeks ago. I really like them. I've been enjoying them in my lattes, especially if I use a lot of espresso shots at a time. I think they're great for that. I also really enjoy the Starbucks original line as well. Love their blonde roast in that. I haven't tried the espresso roast in the original line, but honestly, I'm sure it's pretty good too. I don't think, hopefully it doesn't vary too much between the Virtuo line and the original line. But if you have both, I recommend you get both for that. Another third party that I just stumbled across a couple of weeks ago when I was in DC is Compass Coffee. They're a local brand of coffee shop that can be found. I don't know if they're everywhere, but they're definitely up here in the Northeast, Mid-Atlantic area. And so it turns out they sell these small little like original line compatible pods. And so I tried them and I've been loving them. Love those too. So I'll have to do maybe a review of those as well. I haven't tried all of them that I bought, but I do want to give a full taste test of all of them. I think I bought 4 different types, one including decaf, which I've been really liking. So highly recommend that. And then I know there's like Illy, and then there's like the Good and Gather brand from Target, and Williams and Sonoma. They come out with so many. I've heard some great reviews about the coconut flavors in those, so feel free to try those. But other than that, the only ones that I've tried are Pete's, Bespresso, the Compass, and the regular Nespresso pods, I believe. And I don't know if I said Starbucks, but Starbucks. So we'll see. We'll see. I'll definitely give you guys a rundown if I do invest in some Pete's pods, and we'll do a taste test together. I got you. Well, that is it for our very first coffee chat Q&A. Again, thank you guys so much for submitting those questions. I had so much fun answering them. And again, please let me know down below, what are some syrups you've been liking? What are some coffee pods that you've been liking, your top 5 Virtuo and original lines? Maybe some syrups that you want to try, don't really know if you want to buy, but maybe want me to try for you guys first. And what machine you guys have. Please feel free to do that. Again, I'll link my recipe down below, as well as a lot of the things we've talked about in this video. If not, all in the description below, definitely my Amazon storefront for you guys to check out, okay? Again, thank you guys so much. Highlight of my week to do this video, and I hope you guys have a fantastic next couple of weeks. Bye, guys.